This is The Hook by Adventures in Americana. I'm Christine Davis, and today I'm thrilled to welcome Doc of Minneapolis-based Sawtooth Witch to talk about the band's new album, The Chariot, which has just been released. Sawtooth Witch is led by Doc, who also releases music as they self on guitar, vocals, piano, and drums, with Haley Fleming on fiddle. The two first played together in the band Fairfax, Alaska. They describe their sound as acoustic dance music, a mix of hill and cosmic country, pop, punk, funk, blues, R&B, and house, with lyrics that turn deeply personal experiences into dance floor delight. This is your second appearance on an Adventures in Americana feature, having been on our North Country Song Sessions. Doc, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
So congratulations on the release. Your sound resists easy categorization, which is part of what makes it compelling, but it can also make it harder for audiences or the industry to place you. Have you felt any pressure to be more definable, and what would you lose if you gave into that?
I mean, it's hard to say just because I feel like most of the time industry pressure comes from like the form of silence, of just like, oh, we don't know what to do with this, so we're just not going to respond to your emails. I have noticed the Steve Martin thing of just be so good they can't ignore you has been kind of true, just because we've always been a band that resisted those categories on purpose, and I think it is like coming off as, I think people want to paint that as like we're trying to ruffle feathers, but in reality, like, we just like all kinds of music and we wanted to explore new sounds. I think I remember we were playing some festival and it went really well, like the room was at capacity, but this older gentleman came up to us later and said, you're pretty good, but that sure ain't bluegrass. Genre fluid used to be kind of like a play on words, and now it's just kind of thing a lot of bands are saying, especially in the generations coming up behind me. And I was kind of interested in messing with electro and house and trying to blend it with all the stuff I grew up with. I think the first bands I played in were bluegrass and Americana, and I tried to dust off those old fingerpicking patterns a little bit, and then I found that a lot of those fingerpicking patterns like don't quite line up. Like, you kind of have to rearrange it and create something new for the drums to kind of fit. So it kind of just became something else, and now we just kind of come up with playful terms for it. Acoustic dance music. I think we were playing somewhere in St. Paul during the Wolves playoffs, and some guy like heard us sound checking, and like he was clearly there just to watch the game, and he just kind of like heard us play and was just like, the hell is this, some sort of hillbilly house music? And I was like, yeah, it's kind of what we're going for. And he was like, all right. And he just dropped a 5 in the tip jar and just kept watching the game. And I think as long as you're like honest about it, like presenting it as something, you don't have to apologize for, people get it, rather than like, oh, I'm sorry, we're trying to do something different. It's just like, yeah, man, we're trying to do something different. It comes off as an easier pill to swallow.
A difficult path to carve, right? You're creating a new groove. So there's a fine line between genre blending and things starting to feel unfocused. How do you know when you've gone far enough versus something needs to be pulled back?
It's gonna come off so cliche, but like it's the same thing I kind of tell my students when we're learning how to play with rhythm, is just like, you kind of just have to feel the groove. And I think because I was like just trying to focus on something new, where it's just like, no, it isn't quite house music and it's not quite folk. It's like inspired by this kind of thing. It just feels done, like sometimes when you add too much to like how locked in the beats are, Because we don't use drum machines, we're imitating them, and even though we can kind of be human and sway the beat a little bit, once that goes, you kind of have to pretend it's on a grid. So like adding too much, like can kind of distract me and be like, whoa, 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 what's going on? But like sometimes adding too little. So it's kind of just like fusion cooking. And I'm not trying to be like some sort of iconoclast. It's more of just like, this is something I thought up of like, what if we combine these two things? Would it work? And a lot of the way we find that out is just like improvising on stage. And those gigs, we were playing like 2, 3 hours a night. So it's like, I was raised by deadheads. Like, so sometimes we would just take songs and stretch out ideas and then come back to the form. And then, like maybe like try an idea for like a riff I had in a jam and then like come back into the chorus or something. So it's just like, you'll get instant response where like if a crowd's just like, oh, this is great. And then after a while it's like, I'm gonna get a beer. We're like, okay, maybe that's not working. I'm just trying to make the music I want to see in the world. And admittedly, it's not gonna be for everybody, but like I don't think all music should be. Like I don't I'm not really interested in trying to um because sometimes there are audiences that like don't get it, and there are like pockets of people who do, and there's like some people like kind of loudly dismissing it, and then there's like actual folks that are like really enjoying it. So it's just like I would much rather have it just be like, hey, we're all having fun here, and like not ruin anybody's time. So it's just like I'm not trying to be for everybody, but not in a way where I'm like trying to throw tables and be like, this must change, we must tear down. It's just like, no, it's a yes and it's just like I like all these songwriters that you consider to be like monolithic and part of like the history of this tradition, I revere just as much as like it's just kind of, I think in order for art to make a statement, it needs to be part of a conversation first.
You put out a few singles ahead of the album release. The hustle got a lot of early attention. Did that validation shift anything for you creatively, or did it just affirm the direction you were already heading?
Like it's always exciting to get that. But I think it's more the latter, like I wasn't really looking for validation because like in the early days, like and I grew up in Philly, so maybe this is like says more about me, but like in the early days, like the rejection was almost validation because like there were some times where like I would read certain things and I was just like, well, that guy likes boring stuff anyway. So like of course he's not gonna like me. So like I kind of like took it as a badge of honor to be like, oh yeah, like if they're ignoring me, I must be doing something right because that means it's new. Um but to say like, no, I don't want people to talk about me, like that's crazy. Like of course it's like really fun and exciting, but it's also kind of like, well, I think in my early days, I focused on that too much. And the older I get, the more I'm just trying to be like, no, like what do I want to see out of this? So like I was just more of like, I kind of like this idea and I really do listen to everything, and I really do find cool things about all this stuff. So it was just the continuation of that. I think I was trying to imitate, that's where the house music comes in. Because I was like literally trying to imitate DJs, where it's like when you listen to their set, like they'll start with like a groove and, like it's like a vibe. And then like they'll bring in records, but like they'll be bringing in, I've heard like Nina Simone samples. I've heard samples from films, and then they'll like have this breakdown where it's like an old school jazz record mixed in, and then they get the Delta blues, then they get the Chicago blues to make it bigger, then they get the soul singers, and then they bring the electro back in, and then they bring it back down. So I think it was more an homage to like that.
You and Haley worked together in the band Fairfax, Alaska. What changed in this collaboration that makes Sawtooth Witch feel like something new rather than a continuation of the past?
Um, well, in a weird way, it's like new and a continuation because I feel like Fairfax was also trying to do like we were bringing in Midwest emo to like alt country, and we were kind of trying to bring those like cowpunk influences. So like we were kind of trying to like take this stuff that we loved and like added, some of the spicier things that we were enjoying, but a completely different genre. Like Haley and I have always had this like crazy chemistry that I just trust it's going to work out. Um, 'Cause she just has a crazy ear. Uh, and I think part of the reason like I wanted to try the DJ thing is because like if you ever remember seeing Fairfax, like some of our banter would just be like her and I playing riffs, like like she'll throw Green Acres during like stage banter, just for did it, we're like Bob Newhart, and like did it, just Jeopardy theme. It's like we always kind of had the ability to riff, and I was just like, hey, do you remember like when we would just fool around and like, what if we did that professionally? And just like, it's like, oh yeah, when you're playing that riff, like, why don't we just make a whole idea out of that? It was a complete departure from Fairfax. So it's not a continuation in that regard, but the creative spirit to just kind of be open and experiment and kind of be willing to work without a net was a continuation. It looks like we're winging it, but it's just like with fingerstyle, you have to like plan ahead so far that even when you're improvise, it's like it's funny. I have a sports family, so it's just like sometimes I have to come up with analogies where it's like the read option offense. You're prepared, but sometimes you go this way, and sometimes they're like, yeah, okay, that makes sense. So you spend all this time practicing these forms, but like fingerstyle players will know what I'm talking about. Like you're not like you always kind of have little places that you like, I could take it here, I could take it here, and so yeah, it was a complete like we kind of had to rewrite our understanding of some of those things, but because we were already used to just kind of like doing that, it wasn't much of a stretch. Like it didn't feel like we were like straining to do this. Like it just kind of was just like, hey, do you want to try this? And if it doesn't work, like we usually, like we'll just get out of it.
Your vocal delivery is really distinct. There's a kind of restraint that makes the emotional moments hit harder. Is it something you've developed over time, or is it just how the songs come out?
Like as a kid, I was really good at like doing random impressions. Um, and I still catch myself doing it. I've been doing so many of these interviews and like I don't know why, but we were like joking about Saturday Night Live, and I just like started to do the Lorne Michaels voice, like just for fun. So like I always kind of had that like weird Jack Black like make noises. But like I always am trying to kind of get better at music, and I think there was a period where I was just like, how are they doing that? Like, how are you like? Because I always could like make noises, and I had a few voice acting gigs here or there, but it kind of became this like conscious effort to be like, how do these people control it? Like, how do they do it easier so you don't like blow out your voice? And it's like, um, and I've never really had a voice lesson, so I would just like listen to records and try to like imitate like everything. So I just kind of leaned into like what felt good in my body and what felt good just in my soul of just like this is the music that like comforts me. So it was just kind of like the same way I would imitate Simpsons voices and just like watching the same episode. I just would kind of listen to these records and just like try to match their runs. And sometimes I can't sleep. So you have to learn how to do that kind of quietly. And then I didn't realize I was like kind of training in a weird way.
Album title, The Chariot, suggests movement, direction, something ancient. What does
Mhm.
that title mean to you?
Um, it is a reference to the tarot. Um, and depending on what, if the card's upright or reversed, was more of like a metaphor for like what the songs were kind of dealing with and how the album kind of happened. Like there was this chaos, and then we actually got a state arts board grant for the album, so it just kind of became this thing where it's just like, okay, we need to decide what this is because this is serious now. So like, and that's kind of similar to what that card symbolizes, is just like sometimes you're in chaotic situations and it's like how you grab the reins, like and all the songs on the record kind of dealt with that. Like maybe you're awakening to some sort of corruption or betrayal to someone or institutions that you thought were caring for you. And you have to kind of figure out how you live now, um, how you move forward, because it's not going to stop. It's similar to like grief never really goes away, it just changes. And kind of dealing with those themes too. And I realized like all those songs were kind of dealing with that from different angles. Like I was also kind of giving myself a reading, and I like kept getting the Chariot, and it was almost just like the whole thing was just like, yeah, you know what you need to do. Like, and you know what you need to do. You know what you need to do. So when it came to name the album, I was just like, it needs to be the Chariot. Like this whole period of the life, it was the Chariot period. That is the spirit of all the album. Is just like, hey, the only way out is through, and we're either gonna crash or we're either gonna make it, but we'll find out. It's time to take the reins and stand up for yourself, and just figure it out yourself. But I think I just kind of wanted to put those songs out there because it's just like it feels lonely when you're going through that, but like you're not alone. We've all been there, and it's almost more of like a, meant to be kind of like the shows are kind of like, yeah, we're here for another meeting. Like, but like just kind of the dance floor was a way to work through all those things, and that's kind of why I like write about those things rather than like the sunshine and rainbows, all that, because I don't think people would care about my points of view on those things anyway. So
Who knows? Maybe that's for the next
yeah,
one.
who knows? Maybe yeah, the Rainbow album. I'll see you next year.
Anything else you want the people to know about the album before I let you go?
I just want people to like, if you feel like you're picking up anything that I'm putting down at this, I just want you to check it out. All the companies we work with are female owned, which was like super like so like we released it without a wax on like red vinyl, and we're just really psyched about the packaging. It's in town. It's a local Minneapolis company, and they just knocked it out of the park.
The Chariot by Sawtooth Witch is out now wherever you get your music. We'll link their socials below. Please go listen to this incredible album and look out for their upcoming live shows. I'm Christine Davis. This is The Hook by Adventures in Americana. Doc, thank you so much for joining me today.
Christine, thank you so much. This was a lot of fun. I really appreciate it.